change a cabin. And so in most cases, I don't. But I just find it's nice. They make you feel good because you have options, all right? You can move from this to that, this location, that location. And just like you have a choice of airlines as well, you know, it's obvious that some airlines just operate a little better. They're more service oriented. They're a lot kinder and so on like that. I think based from experience, you know which ones are which. And, you know, then you also have a choice of which, would you like a window seat if you're going to change? Or would you like an aisle seat? Or do you want to be in the middle? Most people don't want to be in the middle, if I'm not mistaken. They don't like to be in the middle seat. You know, so it's your choice, really. And so living in this material world is like a game like that, where you have choices, and we take so much pride in, oh, wow, I get these choices. Like, wow, that's so much sense gratification. I'm a dog and I have such a long leash, we're thinking, you know. And so it's a little bit like that. I remember one of my greatest joys when walking across the country was, okay, I'm tired, I'm a little sleepy, I really need to lie down. Okay, so now I have a choice. Which rock to sleep behind, or behind which tree so people won't bother me, you know, like that kind of thing. Or if I have to, you know, urinate somewhere, I can't just do it out in the open, so I have to find a place. So I found that, wow, I have choices here. It's so liberating. So here's your chance to make good or to do bad, you know. And you know, generally we understand that if you reach the human stage, you have a good chance to stay on that plateau, or you can advance further, as part of the examples given here, to become a demigod, perhaps, or even better still, to reach moksha, liberation, a cessation of the samsara process, the repeated birth and death. And you have a chance to just zip right out, zip line your way out and go into Vaikuntha Loka. Has anybody done any zip lining? That's popular with the young people. You grab onto something and go through the trees like Tarzan or something. So these choices are very strong. And the kind of body that you get, which in one sense you pay for simply by your projecting your desire, it's all determined by just where your strength lies in terms of where your passion is. So the example is given, if you choose to, and let's go back to the choices. You're a human being, great, but is it possible to now, you know, reach lower grades? And the example is yes. And that's through a degrading system, degrading. If you become degraded, you'll reach a lower grade. I remember in this very room where I'm sitting, we had one sannyasi, he was a guru, and someone asked him we're very concerned about our children who are they're hearing sex education. And we don't like although the topic is important, but the message that they convey in sex education, we don't approve, and in their grading system. And then the sannyasi jumped in and said, you mean the degrading system? So, you know, on that note, sex education may be necessary, but what I found when they first introduced it into the high school, they were actually talking more about how you can be promiscuous and get away with it. You know, it wasn't about wholesome sex education. That I could see for sure. I can testify to that. You know, so I thought it was adharmic. Okay, let's go back. Let's look at the last word that Prabhupada highlights: karshati. Prakriti stani karshati. Okay, we're all struggling in this world with the six senses, including the mind. And the word is karishati. We're struggling. And as part of the struggle is that we're going from this body to that body, this body, and from this upgrade to this degrade, from this planet to another planet. And what we are determined to go to is dependent on our the blueprints that we lay out. So I don't know if people do blueprints anymore, because everything's done by computers, but a kind of a blueprint where you lay out your, say, like if you're an architect and you want to lay out your building. So that is, the building isn't yet manifest, it's unmanifest, is avyakta. But because you've laid out the drawings and you got the approval, stamp of approval by all the powers that be, then that's going to be manifest because it's all kind of laid out and been premeditated upon, right? So it's understood by the laws of transmigration of the soul that you will enter into a body that you have meditated mostly on. I remember another sannyasi, my colleagues, his name is Achutananda, and said there was a case of a man in India who got hit by a train, okay? And then the train stopped, people came around, and they said, they knew he was going to leave his body. So is there anything else we can do for you? Is there anything we can get for you? Well, tell us what's on your mind. Well, how can we assist you? And he said, I want vidhi, meaning I want a cigarette. Okay. So that was the most important thing in his thoughts. So, you can imagine somebody might take birth as a tobacco plant, in their next life, because that's, according to the 8th chapter of the Gita, yang yang vapi swaran bhavan chachityanti kalevaram tam tam evaiti kaunteya sadata bhavabhavita. That means that whatever you're thinking of at the time of death, that state you attain in your next life. So if you've got strong desires to be in a different kind of body, and the human body isn't no fun anymore, then you can certainly have the sensation of being into something less in terms of intellectual level and power. So it's there. So the example is very beautiful here. Prabhupada talks about the air carrying aroma. So if air or like a nice breeze comes and it hits like a rose bush, okay, that rose bush scent will be carried for a few feet or yards. And you can smell it. Oh my God. Oh, so fragrant. And, yet the scent is a projection of the flowers. The flowers are in one spot, but the scent has been separated, or let's say some of it has been directed elsewhere. And just to give you another example, since they legalized marijuana, I'm sure you've all experienced this before. You'll smell the weed, you'll smell marijuana, and you wonder, well, where's I don't even see the person who's smoking. They're gone, or they went around the corner. And so, in other words, the the scent moved on, and when you take a little whiff and you say, "Oh yeah, that's marijuana," and immediately think of marijuana, right? Hopefully, you won't die at that point, so you would take birth as the cannabis, But so things are separated. The example Prabhupada also gives: if air moves along and it hits a pile of manure or stool, then that will also carry it. So whatever you kind of carry, whatever you harbor inside in terms of your feelings and your desires, that determines, what kind of future will be destined for you. And so that's how we understand transmigration of the soul or reincarnation. It's really quite simple, and I think it's very intriguing for people who discuss, who explore this subject matter, which is subtle. And a lot of people have, at least a number of people. There's this Edgar Casey. He did a lot of. He's an American, And he did a lot of case studies of people who believed that they were in a former life someone else. And it's all documented. And, just like say, we have the stories that are really kind of mind-blowing and hair-raising of people who recall a previous life. And if by chance through hypnotic regression, you are able to know your previous life, and then you can take a step, trace back the place where you previously lived, then it becomes very interesting. Just like say, for instance, these are true stories where a young girl from India, one part of India, I don't know if it's Gujarat, but she had died young, and she just had been taken birth again, and then she remembered all the details of her previous life. So she kept talking about it and kept bringing it up. And so her parents decided, okay, let's go and see the house where you lived before. Let's go see the people that you associated with, that you identify as family. Let's go. She was curious, the family was curious, and so they went to travel some distance to go to the former life that she had. And so when she went there, she identified the family members. I'm not talking about the current family. She already knows them, so she identified her former family members, and she, even when she got inside, there was a door there. It was door, and indeed the family had taken out the door and it put a wall in there. So, and all things measured up. They added up, stacked up to be, this is the girl that we know. No one else could tell her these secret things, And so the beauty of the story is that, okay, this is an endorsement towards transmigration of the Atma. But the sad story is now the family who lost their daughter from the previous life are now saying, that is our daughter, we must have her. So there's a little bit of a tug of war going on. Said, which family should she belong to? And maybe they shared a little bit of both. I don't know with these cases what happens in the long run, whether memories fade from people who had a previous experience or not. But my guess would be it can confuse people, to be in a sort of a tussle, between this and that, and this town that I grew up in previous life, and the town I currently go in. It can create a lot of disturbance. But the principle here is very simple, and Prabhupada mentions the word karshati. Okay, struggle. That means your confused movements, frustrating movements. And in italicized, just a little prior to that, he says karma. Karma means what you kind of deserve, what you desire, and what you deserve. A subsequent inherent reaction. So anytime you do some kind of motion, like if I do this, and say I do it because there's a fly in my face, the fly will definitely get out of the way until it comes to bother me again. So the fly is reacting to my acting. That is the sort of complete understanding of karma. It's like action and subsequent reaction. So when people have strong desires and it registers in the mind, this will also register with the powers that be, like the devatas, who are in charge of the various organs of the body. The eyes, the nostrils, the mouth, the ears, the anus, the genitals, and so on like that. There are various demigods who have powers and control over these different bodily organs. And what we're saying here is that they help to determine what kind of body we get in our next life based on how we use these bodily organs, based on how we carry ourselves. What's our cadence? What's our countenance? We are in one way telling the devatas upstairs. So you actually have the power to do that. Just like when you ask a child, what do you have an idea what you want to do when you grow up? And they have some idea, like a young boy will say, I like to be work in the fire department. I like to be a fire chief. Or, somebody might say, I want to be a rich business person in the corporate world, or whatever the case may be. So I like to be a musician. I like to busker on the streets. So if you desire very strongly, it's likely to happen in this life, and it could also happen in the next. So that's also possible. So desire is strong. Prabhupada explains that because I desired to come to the West, therefore I came to the West. Everything, the details were lined up so that he could actually come to New York City and start sharing Krishna consciousness with the local people. So desire is a very, very strong principle of life, of tattva or truth, and it's something that will determine our future. So with training in Krishna consciousness, we should be able to steer and direct our minds in a way that will be most favorable. So if we can be cultivating our Krishna consciousness, and this is where parents help a lot, especially when we're young, they let's say insert into our minds the impression that it's good to be a devotee of Krishna. It's good to work towards love and liberation. And then all arrangements will be made by the higher authorities, by the higher powers. So we all have desires, and that's a symptom that we live. The fact that we have wishes and dreams and desires indicates that I have an Atma. And these are symptoms of life, that there's some prana there. So what we have to sort of demonstrate, what we want to show those who influence our, the new makeup of our body in the future is that I want to be with Krishna. I want to be with God. I want to be a spiritual person. And there's so many, advantages to that kind of a lifestyle. Apart from getting free from the cycle of birth and death, apart from reaching peace once and for all, as Krishna states in the Gita, he says, 1866, Sarva Dharman Parityaja, Mamekang Sharanam Vraja Ahang Twang Sarva Bhatibhyo, Moksha Shami Mashicha. So he's indicating that there's peace. Peace will come, stressless life, if you submit to him. So if we, people will contemplate that, yes, surrender to God sounds like a good program, but I still have a lot of habits. I still have a lot of hankerings, and those hankerings happen to be with Maya. Okay, so it looks like, if you to put a lot of attention to Maya and the ways of the whimsical mind, then that's where you'll be going. You won't be with Krishna just yet. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some lifetimes. So Krishna doesn't want us to beat around the bush. Krishna wants us to be very, see a sense of urgency and get on with the show, so to speak. Get on with being back with him. And there are 5 different kinds of major liberations. And one of them is called Sayuja, which means to become one with the Lord. Another one is Salokya, being in the same place as the Lord in the future. Another one is Sarupya, having the same image as God. Another one is samipya, which is to have the company of the Lord, and sarshti is to have the opulence of the Lord. That's what the Shastras describe, that there's 5 major kinds of liberation. But those who are a little bit smart and intelligent will commit themselves to being the servant of the Lord, whatever you want, my Lord. And I can be in Vaikuntha, or I can be not in Vaikuntha. I can be in Kunta, this world of struggle. As long as I have the opportunity to serve you, oh my Lord, then I feel safe. Then I feel like I'm being looked after. Yeah, so I think desire is a very strong aspect of our lives, and we really need to let Krishna know and let the Devatas know, because they're always watching us, what we want. And we should actually look at the choices and, opt for being with the Lord and being a chance where we serve the Lord. So just like I was with a group of people yesterday from Hamilton, Welland, and so on like that. And I asked them, what's your understanding of what is Dharma? And what's your definition? And sometimes Prabhupada describes it as duty, because usually you'll do that which is most natural to you. But just to go a little deeper, Dharma means to get to the essence of a thing. To get to the essence of the thing. What's the natural aptitude of a thing, an object? So just to give some examples, we may have done this before. What's the dharma of water? It's liquidity, and that would be the answer. What is the dharma of, let's say, the sun? That's heat and light, perhaps. I asked the folks there, what's the dharma of Hamilton? And somebody said steel. And another person said waterfalls. And so both are okay. And so what's the dharma of a chili pepper from Colombia? And then one of the little boys, he said, spicy, hot. So what is the essence, or what is the dharma or the essential truth of the self, of the soul? And that is service, seva, serving others. When you serve other people, you are the happiest. When you serve yourself, okay, that's also okay. But when you make somebody else happy outside of your own framework, then you feel even better. It's true. It's a psychological fact. So that we put that into practice by serving others. And of course, Krishna is included in the list. And his world, the earth, a lot of people just say, like we just passed our birthday, right? So you do something for the earth, and you feel good, whether it's planting trees or whatever the case may be, and just kind of cooperate. That's all, cooperate. And then this is bhakti, and this is service, when you cooperate with the needs of others. And of course, people are needy. They need spiritual life like anything, we all admit this is Kali Yuga. It's a dark time. People do strange things. And a lot of those very unfortunate things that happen is it's a result of drug influence, or again, incredible passions on the level of kama, or like say, people are highly ambitious, and that's what gets everybody into trouble. So if we can somehow harness our desires and steer them towards the lotus feet of Krishna, then he's going to bless us with the best body and the best situation for rendering service to others. Right? So service just is something that everyone does. It just goes hand in hand with what people are all made up of. And just to go for the third or the first italicized word of the purport, Ishvara. So Ishvara means controller. We have some control over our body. Another phrase that's used, Kshitra Gya. Kshitra means field of activity, referring to this body. And Gya refers to the knower of the field of activity. So we all know our body. I'm just doing this on my chest, and it's a light tap, and I feel it. I feel it. This is my body. I am not the body, but it is what's carrying me. I was going to say I carry it. It carries me, and but of course, my desire precedes where I go. It says, after this class, I'm going to leave the room. I'm going to go downstairs, and I'm going to take some prasadam, right? So that is my desire. And then after the prasadam, I'm going to make myself available and ready to go to the old city hall where we're having a big kirtan to honor the people in crisis in the Ukraine. So I have these desires, and my body kind of follows my desire, right? But within the body is myself. So it's like a carriage, it's a chariot. So the relationship between the self and the body is very strong, it's very firm. But we have to bear in mind that it is temporary. It's just not going to last forever. It's just not going to be there. So we should just have these kind of like hope desires towards a temporary fix. It's just that. Keep it in mind, it's a temporary fix. And really, we just need to go for that which is more permanent. Okay, so yeah, I'll wrap it up soon and we'll go for questions. Yeah, there's various stages in the Gita where Krishna talks about fruit of activity and flowery language. And that refers to the karma kanda section. It has a lot with worshiping some demigod for material benefit. And that is the wish, like I mean, in the East, in India, people, that's very relatable. From this demigoddess, I'll get this. From that god, I'll get that. You know, it's like a marketplace. Like a shopping mall, practically, right? And it's all about fulfilling your temporary desires. So in the West, people are less familiar with that kind of system. But nevertheless, the same desires are the same. I wish I could have this. I wish I could have that. And maybe what would you just wish upon something, wishing upon a star, and oftentimes you get what you want if your desire is strong. Right? So our desire for being at Krishna's lotus feet and serving the Vaishnavas and serving the world, so to speak, by sharing Krishna consciousness, it should be the topmost wish on our wish list. Everyone's got a wish list. You got a bucket of wishes. May the top one be that one. Let me serve Krishna, and everything else will see immaterial or have not much significance. Yeah. So it's all about surrender, and so put forth your strongest wish, and you might throw a little coin into the wishing fountain if you want to do that. It's not absolutely necessary, but all you have to do is let it be known to Krishna what it is you really want, and may you be intelligent in terms of your choices in that matter. So thank you very much, and we'll just go on with any questions or deliberations and takeaways, if you like. I think that it might be an idea to go to everybody and go for a takeaway. But first, we'll just ask for any questions that you may have.
Can I ask you this question? I like the way you explain dharma. It's more than duty. And it's a tough subject for me to explain to my other friends, especially our Hinduism is so hard to explain to others in a simple 2 words, like our Sanatana Dharma. Everywhere the Dharma is such an integral part of our thinking from ancient times. So I know you explained it nicely. Can you say a little bit more on that? Thank you.
Well, we describe that Dharma is to get to the essential truth about something, where, you know, what is revealed is at the heart of the object. What's at the heart of the object? And so we explained it in terms of the notion of service, right? And so when we're describing it in a very, let's say perhaps a deeper way, what is the heartbeat of an individual? Let's put it that way. And when we talk about Dharma in terms of duty, it means usually people should, duty oftentimes refers to what's your job, what's your career, you know, how do you spend most of your time, you know, and usually that has to do with, you know, what you ought to do, and what you're obliged to do. In terms of vocation or career, and what you like to do, that's another matter. What's natural to you? What's the most natural thing about you? You know, and that is common amongst all of us. And so we get to that point of, well, again, the service mode. You know, so, and you can take any object and see what is the essence. I think that's the key word, essence, behind something. And you know, so Dharma means to get to the heart of something. And when we say Sanatana Dharma, what's our eternal essence? Like, say, for instance, my Dharma might be in this life, I'm a cook, okay? And someone else's Dharma could be, like, say, to be a doctor. And you might say, well, that's all to do with jobs and vocation, but people end up doing where their heart lies, or where destiny lies for them. So I think Dharma has a lot to do with karma. And if you want to explain Dharma to people, then you might have to include karma as well, as Prabhupada does here in this purport here. So I think the essential truth behind any subject matter, that's really getting to the heart of Dharma. And first of all, what's really important is to understand your true identity. I'm not this body, I'm a spirit. And what about that spirit? What about that Atma? What about that soul? Well, the most prominent thing about that soul is to be serving, to engage in seva, which implies more like spiritual service, as opposed to something mundane, like a temporary sort of arrangement. But I don't know, that helps out a little bit.
Yes, thank you, sir.
I think a lot of people are drinking coffee, right? Tim Hortons coffee, right? Tim Hortons donuts. What's the Dharma of a donut? Tim Hortons donut.
To keep you happy.
To keep you happy, okay.
Temporarily.
Somebody might say the hole in the donut. Or, you know, a coffee. You know, what is it about coffee that people crave so much? It's not just the flavor, it's the fact that it keeps them awake, right? Yeah. Detrimentally with the caffeine. Maybe in coffee it's caffeine, right? Which is not healthy for us. Okay, so thank you for that question. Anybody else?
Maharaj, there is one more question written in Tamil, Maharaj. I'll translate it.
I saw that in Tamil. I was just, I can't understand that.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, the question is, we actually get body based on our karmas you mentioned in the class. when we are in Krishna consciousness, we also have our thoughts. And, do we get body based on our particular mood, particular bhava? Do we get a spiritual body based on our bhava in which we are serving Maharaj in Krishna consciousness?
What do you mean by bhava?
Can you explain, Nilambari Mataji? What do you bhava na enna nenikiringa neenga?
அதாவது இப்போ நம்ம வந்து கிருஷ்ண உணர்வுல இருக்கும்போது வந்து நம்ம கோலோக விருந்தாவன் போவோம். தண்டவத் பிரணாம். சரி, தண்டவத் பிரணாம், தண்டவத் பிரணாம், மாட்டுவோம். அப்போ வந்து இப்போ பாவா மீன்ஸ் இப்போ வந்து ராகானுக பக்தி பண்ணனா வந்து அதாவது ராகாத்மிகா பக்தி அப்படின்றது வந்து ஸ்பிரிச்சுவல் வேர்ல்ட்ல பண்றாங்க இல்லையா பிரபு? இப்ப ராகாத்மிகா பக்தி தானே நம்ம பண்றது. அப்ப அந்த ராகாத்மிகா பக்தி பண்ணும் போதே நம்மளுக்கு அப்படி ஒரு உடல் கிடைக்குமா? அது வந்து நம்ம சாண்டிங் பண்ண 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 இப்ப விரஜா கோபிஸ் எல்லாம் நம்ம நினைக்கிறோம், அந்த லீலைகள்லாம் நினைக்கிறோம் இல்லையா? அப்படி நினைச்சு நம்ம சாண்டிங்கை வந்து நல்லா கிளியரா நல்லபடியா டேஸ்டா பண்ணும்போது, சுவையோட பண்ணும்போது நம்மளுக்கு ஆன்மீக உடல் வந்து தானே உருவாகுமா அப்படின்றது நான் கேட்கிறேன்.
சரி, okay. Sorry, Maharaj. Maharaj, the question was, we are actually told your devotional service going on to the level of Ragatmika Bhakti.
Oh, yes.
Yes, Maharaj. So that is what is kind of, yes, Maharaj, kind of expected that, we must progress towards Ragatmika Bhakti. So when we perform devotional service on that level, on a spontaneous devotional service level, do we get body based on how we serve in that particular aspect, Maharaj?
Well, it is possible. It's understood that we all have a sort of siddhi. We have a particular rasa with Krishna, and it's like in a dormant state right now. And I think that when you become spontaneous in your service to Krishna, that it will naturally unfold. And I don't think it's too much to be concerned about. I really believe that the most important spirit we have to capture is that, what am I doing now? Being attentive to our service to the Lord. That's what's really important. So I don't think we have to become so futuristic and try to contemplate what I'm going to be, what kind of physical or spiritual body I'll have based on my bhava. Usually if something, you're acting on a pure level, there's certain moods that are established, and that most likely will determine that, that's kind of like where you belong in your relationship with Krishna. So, but I really feel, just for the sake of making spiritual advancement, I would not get too concerned about that. I would just be more concerned about being attentive to my service to the Lord and his needs. Be more in the present. Just like, say, we were talking about a little bit earlier, some people contemplate what they were before in their last life, and that's kind of irrelevant. You are what you are now, right? And steady progress can be made by just being very attentive to to all the steps you take on the path of bhakti. And then it will be determined by the Lord, not so much by yourself, not necessarily. It will be determined by Krishna, where is your destiny, and what kind of rasa you will have with the Lord. So that's just my comment on it. Otherwise, some of these thoughts can be a little distracting. Will I be a gopi with Krishna? Will I be a peacock in his land? Will I be a blade of grass in Vrindavan? It's not so relevant, really. It really isn't. Based on our closeness to Krishna is what we really need to aspire for. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. That was such an inspiring answer, Maharaj. I will share that with that Mataji.
Okay.
Yes, Maharaj.
Good. So I guess, is there any other questions or comments? Then, if
Devotees
not,
to-
do we have anybody else? Then what we can do, we could just, would it make sense to go through everyone, do a takeaway? We just want anything that was said during this class or any realization that popped up in your head. You could just say it, make it like one sentence, no more. And then we like it's a takeaway, right? You know, before we leave this, our little session here, just say, I'm glad I sat here for an hour, and what I learned from something that I picked up on was such and such, okay? So it just has to be one sentence, nothing more than that. Kadambakana, why don't you start?
Maharaj, I also like the same thing Dr. Rajan was sharing, that aspect of Dharma. That was very nice, Maharaj. You gave us a new perspective. Generally, that's what we think it is our occupational duties, but this was really striking, Maharaj. I really like that. And also the aspect about the aromas, which you said, how the air carries aromas. Similarly, so that comparison, the parallels was really, really inspiring, Maharaj.
Oh, thank you. Very good.
Thank you, Maharaj.
So shall we hear from Ashok? What is your takeaway? Let's
I
keep
think
it short.
it's same as Prabhuji said, I always get stuck in answering my colleagues because when we use the word dharma, there is no equivalent English, but now I can clearly tell them the essence, which they understand. It's, very nicely you gave that explanation. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Hare Krishna. And how about Vandita or anybody from the couch there?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is obvious. The same Maharaj, like dharma of self is to serve. Like that
Yes.
is, yeah. So I got it here.
You got it. That's great. That's great. And Neelambari, it might be hard for her to say, right?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. So should we Gurunathan?
Gurunathan. Same, Maharaj. Few of them, they can understand Maharaj, but it may be difficult for them to speak fluently.
Okay. What about Pranavi? Pranavi?
Yeah, Maharaj. I love the statement that Dharma has everything to do with karma. And I do believe in that. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, Brew. Thank you, son. Then we'll go to Satyam.
Yes, Maharaj. So I really like that analogy, that just focus on devotional service to Krishna and don't get distracted by like who was I in my last birth or any other kind of distractions which we usually have in our life. Just focus on devotional service. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Just look at the karma that you have to work with and just stick by that. Whatever karma was there previously, it's going to be irrelevant now. And whatever it may be in the future, look at what you have now. Look at the gifts, the body you have now, the capacity, the energy level that you have, the intellectual level, and use it all in Krishna service. Yeah.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
And so we have Om, right? Om.
Om Prabhu, would you like to speak, share something?
Okay. Then how about Rupa Raghunath?
Rupa Raghunath, would you like to share something?
We're just trying to stimulate a little bit.
No problem.
Maharaj, he said he's fine.
Okay. How about Srinivasan?
Srinivasan, Puneet.
Okay. And then we have Vijay.
Maharaj, Puneet want to share something. Puneet, would you like to say something?
No, Prabhu, no doubts.
Okay.
It was a wonderful.
Well, thank you so much. We've got a busy day here, and I will bow out. And like I said, we have a big Harinam program in front of Old City Hall, a big kirtan for peace, for the Ukraine crisis. And so we're I'm just have to get ready for that shortly. Thank you so much. And like I said, we'd love to see everybody in Windsor sometime soon. And go to my old stomping grounds, relatively closed Chatham is where I was born. And we'll get there sometime. In a month's time, I think Ashok was saying, right?
Yes, Maharaj.
All right.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna devotees, thank you all so much. We'll come back next week with another very nice verse from Bhagavad Gita. Till then, please take care. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna and Dandavat Pranams.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.